Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today got my project in the shop is going to be working on this roller. This is another cane mill roller, a different type of cane mill than the ones we've been working on previously, where we had the three rollers that are in the casting. There's lots of different variations of these old cane mills that are out there and how they were made. This one here is basically there were two matching rollers just like this. It was just a two roller thing, and the farmer or whoever bought it would build a frame and mount it up on a post. It still had a mule would walk around in a circle to crush the cane, but it was only a two roller mill, and it was probably a less expensive option. You still see a lot of these things in the wild down here in my part of the world because they were a less expensive option. So back in the day, that was a very popular feature. They are a little bit more tricky and whatever to set up, and probably aren't quite as efficient as the three roller mills, but they got the job done. This particular one was brought into the shop by a gentleman down in Tallahassee, Florida, who contacted me, and he had a set that he was trying to get set back up on his farm, and this particular casting here has a bunch of cracks in it, and he asked me if I could do some braze repairs on it to try to get it fixed up. So we'll give it a shot. You know, anytime you're doing this kind of stuff, it's a little bit of a crapshoot as to how successful you're going to be, but I looked at some pictures of it before he brought it up here, and I think it's a doable repair, so we're going to give it a try. I'll zoom in here and kind of show you some of the stuff we got to do to this, and then we're going to get started and see if we can get this thing fixed up. I've got the camera position kind of looking down into the top of this roller, and there is obviously a big crack right here. It goes through this main rib. Looks to be cracked all the way through. Pretty big cross section there. We're going to probably have to grind a good bit of material out of that to be able to do a decent repair. Also a little small crack kind of starting over here. There's a little bit of a crack up here too. That may have actually been repaired before. I can't tell. It kind of looks like it's possibly could have been repaired in the past, or maybe not, but we're going to try to get that ground out. And then up here in the front, they got the crack that goes through, and this one actually goes down the front almost 2/3 of the way across the front of the whole casting. So this is probably the worst one, most troublesome one anyway. But anyway, we got a lot of cracks to repair. There are also cracks on the other side. When we flip it over and do them, you'll see them. I'm not going to show you right now, but we also got some cracks over there to deal with. So game plan, get in here, grind out as much of this as we can, leave a little bit of material in the bottom, and come in here and braze this up. This is obviously cast iron. Like I've said many times before, I'm not a big fan of welding cast iron, but brazing has worked very good for me, so that's what we're going to be working on here doing. He had this part sandblasted before he brought it to me, which makes it a lot easier. I'm not going to have to do a lot of cleanup on this, which is very helpful. So let's get the grinder out and see if we can grind some of this out so we can start brazing it up. All right, let's get in here and see what we can do. Going to a larger diameter wheel to see if I can get down in here a little bit deeper. See what we can do. I have gone in here and ground as far down into that crack as I can get even with that big wheel that I have. I was starting to get into the casting, so I wanted to stop. I really can't get down into these webs, but I'm not too worried about that. That's pretty thin cross section. I mean, honestly, That's flashing that probably should have been ground out anyway. That's not really part of the casting itself, so there's not a whole lot of structural strength in those webs down there. You know, I got a good halfway through this, and that's just going to be as deep as I can go. Also, on some of the sides here, there were a few cracks. These weren't as deep, these two. There's one on the back here, or two on the back that probably can't see, but they weren't quite as deep, but they were there, so we went ahead and ground those out. And this is the crack that goes down the face. I went ahead and ground down as deep as I could there, and my plan is I'm going to go ahead and fill that up with braze, but then I'm going to flip it on its side, and I'll grind it out again, and we'll regrind that or rebraze that once we get there. So I think we're ready to put some heat in this and start the brazing process. I want to kind of stabilize this inside hub before I put too much heat on this outside, because that's going to put stresses in here that could cause that to get worse. So that's my game plan. We are ready to start putting some heat in here. I got a rosebud. We're just going to start with this, get a bunch of heat in there. I'll probably start brazing with the rosebud, but we'll probably switch to a smaller tip once we get started. I find these rosebuds tend to want to blow the braze out, particularly when you got open sides like that. If you go to a smaller tip, you can build it up a little bit easier. So we'll just play it by ear and see what we need to do. I like to slowly heat things up, and on the casting, I try to heat things up fairly evenly. If you get too much heat in one area, you'll expand that area. Other areas won't expand, and you'll actually can crack things or make cracks worse, and we really don't want to do that. I'm worried we're going to open this crack on the face over here up more as we put heat in here, but there's really nothing I can do. If it does open up more, we'll grind it out and braze it, but hopefully we won't run into that. But let's start putting heat in here. It's going to take a while. This is a big casting. If I had a big oven big enough to put this in, you know, the ideal thing would be to heat the whole thing up in an oven first and then bring it up to brazing temperature, you know, once you kind of get some preheat in the whole part. But we'll do the best we can. We're starting to get a little bit of color in this iron up here, which means we're approaching brazing temperatures. It's going to be challenging. There's just so much mass to this part, and it's just sucking that heat away from it as fast as I'm putting it in there. Even though I've tried to do a pretty good job of preheating this whole part, but we are getting close here to start laying some braze down there, trying to. I can see this is going to be a challenging part to braze just because of the mass that's involved. Getting my torch tip a little too close there. I'm going to see if I can put a little braze down there in the bottom and just, I like to see what happens. If it just kind of beads up, and that's kind of what it's done right now, it's really not at the right temperature, but it gives me an indication as to what's going on. Well guys, as I get into this, my settling pressure is dropping on my tank over there. I thought I was going to have enough to do this job, but I don't think I am. It is starting to lay in there a little bit. It's not blowing out, but it's a good sign. Maybe I can at least get started on this side. Well guys, I had to go get new tanks, swapped these tanks out, came back in. We've got everything back up to heat again, and we're about up to brazing temperature. So we're going to basically just kind of pick up where we left off here and try to finish brazing this in. There toward the very end of that last round, we were getting just a little bit on the cool side. The braze was still laying in there pretty nice, and I'm actually pretty happy with how the braze looks after we've come back to this and kind of heated it back up. So anyway, I think we're at temperature, so we're going to just go ahead and start putting some more material in here. This big rosebud torch really blows a lot, and it makes it hard to really get it to fill in without running everywhere, but it can be done. Have to be patient and not get things too hot. And I'm probably going to have to switch over to a smaller tip here pretty soon because, yeah, it's running out on this back side. Let me switch tips and we'll be right back. All right, I still got most of my heat in here. But with this smaller tip, I can be a little bit more precision about where I lay my braze at and not blow it out all over the place quite as bad and build it up. So that's kind of my game plan here now, is to do just that. I want to kind of build this area up without blowing it all over the place. And we are still at good brazing temperatures here. So we'll just continue laying this material in here and getting this gap filled up. All right, I kind of got a dam built there in the back to hold it in, hopefully now, and now I can kind of fill this in without it running everywhere. That's kind of my game plan anyway. You know, I got this temperature at where the brass is just melting and blending together, but not so liquid that it's blowing everywhere. I moved over to an area where the base material or the braze I'd laid in there below is at a little bit lower temperature, so I'm really kind of heating it up to the point that this braze will kind of all blend together. Once I kind of see a little puddle down in there, we'll continue laying some new material in. This part's got so much mass to it that it's really kind of hard to keep enough heat in here. New brazing rod. Keep enough heat in here with this smaller torch tip, but that rosebud's almost too much. I got a smaller rosebud. I may swap that out and see if we can do it, because this isn't cutting it. All right, let me change tips again. All right, I have switched back over to a rosebud. This is a smaller rosebud than the one I was initially using. And we're going to try this. I'm just trying to get the heat back into my part. I see a little bit of red in there now. That smaller tip, because of the mass of the part that we're dealing with, it started out pretty good because we had the residual heat from that rosebud, but we quickly lost the heat, and I just couldn't get enough heat out of that to get us back to a brazing temperature to really blend everything in down there. So we're going to try the smaller rosebud. And you know, the challenge here is to find that balance between getting enough heat in the part without blowing everything all over the place. I have brazed with this tip before, so hopefully we can get it done with this one. So just about the temperature. I see it kind of starting to puddle up just a little bit. And we're going to introduce the rod here. And you can tell real quickly whether it's going to stick or just bead up and roll off.
And it looks like it's sticking. We're still kind of in that, right on the edge of where we need to be. But we just about got enough heat in here, so yeah, we're sticking now. So let me continue to lay some braze in here. What I'm doing is I'm really not putting the heat directly on the brazing rod. I'm kind of putting it onto the metal and just kind of building that surface up. You want to kind of stay right in that zone where the braze is just liquid but not puddled up to the point that it's flowing out. And you know, when you get there, you kind of have to pull the heat off and let it solidify, and that's kind of how you build it up. And it takes some practice, guys, I'll be honest with you. You know, when you first start doing this, particularly on a big gaping gap like this, you're going to be blowing braze everywhere, and you just kind of have to get a feel for it. And like so many things, it comes with practice. Alright, I'm going to see if I can put a little bit in this front piece up here now. Longer rod. Alright. I'm happy with how that looks. Just trying to build this edge up here a little bit. And I had it a little bit too hot a while ago to build it up. I think I'm there now. Pretty happy with how that area over there turned out. Now I'm moving over and we're gonna put some heat in this groove and see if we can get this one brazed up. All right, happy with that one. All right. One more down, we'll continue on. So we've got the top of this brazed up pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Now I got the braze across the face here. And to do that, I want to rotate this drum around and roll this over on my sawhorses. Now, a couple of challenges. Number one, this thing is heavy, really heavier than I can pick up. I had to use the crane to handle it a while ago. And number two, it's hot as a firecracker right now. So I'm going to use this welding blanket to kind of wrap up around it and hopefully be able to manhandle this thing and get it over. So let me see if I can kind of wrap that around it. And what I want to do first is just kind of roll it over. Here we go. There we go. And now I need to roll it around. This is going to be more challenging. That actually worked pretty good. If I can keep my sawhorses from scooting apart too much. That was not the plan. So I got it repositioned. I just took a piece of wire rope, some cable, put in here, and I was able to pick this back up with the gantry crane. We have our crack on the face here is now across the top, and I'm going to take an angle grinder, come in here and grind that out and braze it up. I think we got the top is all pretty much done now, so let's get that knocked out.
Well, guys, we got this thing all finished brazed up. I didn't show you every last little bit of it. There was a lot of brazing on this. We got this face crack welded all the way up. There was 4 cracks on each of the spokes. One of them was cracked completely in 2. The other ones were just kind of superficial. And then on the other side, there was also another one of the spokes cracked completely through. And we got all that brazed together, and hopefully this thing will stay together. Now that it is brazed, I do need to clean this thing up. I will say that after I got through brazing it, we wrapped it up in these heat blankets and let it cool down real slow overnight. It is at room temperature now. And that's a key part of the brazing process. You want to heat your part up slowly and evenly so you don't have stress in there. You don't have expansion greater in one place or the other. Often that will create a crack. And same thing when you get through brazing, you want to let it cool down real slow to just kind of even that cooling down so that you don't produce any cracks in the process. I don't see any cracks right now. The next step is going to get here and clean it up. First thing we'll do is we're going to come in here with a wire wheel on an angle grinder and just hit everything. You get this kind of glass type stuff when you braze. This is from the flux, and it hardens on there, but it comes right off with an angle grinder. We'll get in here and hit everything and just clean it up. Then I'll probably come in here with a sanding disc, flap disc, and just kind of smooth everything up so it looks a little bit nicer. So let's get in here and get at her. So we got the flap disc on here, and we're just going to just clean this up. I'm not trying to take too much of that off, but I just want to dress it up a little bit so it looks a little bit nicer. Let's see what we can do here. Got my glove trapped in there. Thankfully, that's not my finger. Let me just set it down. There we go. We get this blanket out from underneath it. On this face here, I want to get as much of this cleaned up as I can. I don't want to really get down into the cast iron too much, so if it's got a little bump here as it goes around, it's not a big deal. We just want to get it cleaner than that. I'm pretty happy with that. Let's flip it up to the bottom and get this last side here cleaned up. Here's the bottom of it, dressed up, everything looks good. I'm happy with how this has turned out. I think I'm gonna go over it one more time real good just to make sure, but I think we're finished up on this thing. Well, guys, I think that is a wrap. We have got this thing all brazed up. Happy with the repair. You know, this was a challenging project to do. Lots of cracks in lots of different places. You know, having to fight heat. Keeping the cracks from spreading from one place to the other, and just getting a good braze all the way through. And it was challenging because we ran out of gas. There's a lot of brass in this thing, but we got it done. It actually took me longer to do this project than I anticipated, mainly because I ran out of gas. And that was my fault. I should have gone and got the tanks refilled before I started, but I really thought I was going to have enough. I did not anticipate how much time it was going to take to get this thing heated up. There's a lot of mass in this part, and getting it up to temperature just took more than what I anticipated, but we got it done. We got it done. So I've already called my customer. He's going to come pick this thing up tomorrow, and hopefully he'll be able to get many more years of use out of it. You know, it's not an ideal situation with all these cracks and breaks in it, but I honestly think that this braze job will hold up just fine and probably give him years more of service. Is it going to last forever? It's probably going to break again at some point in time. It's just so big and so much stress is on it and everything else.
but he should be able to get many more years of service out of it. And honestly, probably could have used it with the cracks and it would have been just fine as well. But anyway, there you go. One more braze job, all finished up. One more job out of the shop and on to the next thing. And with that, guys, that's going to be it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up, comments, greatly appreciated down below. Hit that bell icon to get notifications when new videos are posted. Big, huge thank you, as always, to the supporters of the site who help out financially through Patreon, PayPal, etc. Like I always say, guys, I really could not do everything I do if it was not all for your guys' help and support. It really makes a big difference. And with that, guys, we will sign off and we will catch you on the next video. Again, thanks for watching.